Oh, let me tell you something. Busting makes me feel good.
Nope, I have a sneeze. Hold on. I can't tell if I'm actually gonna sneeze or not. Oh no, computer, come back to me. Okay. I think we're recording now? Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Great. This is and break. It's coming on again. And maybe it's just I'm happy to do this podcast. It's like you feel like you have to pee, but you're going to come. I feel like I'm going to sneeze, but I'm just going to enjoy this episode.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how that's going. It's
a very apt analogy. Very relatable.
extreme.
Yeah.
Who doesn't love sneezing?
No, of course.
Hi, everybody. Welcome
Hi.
to Blockbusting, the podcast where we love to hate the movies. I'm your host, Jay Light. Joining me today, my friend, comedian, guy wearing another comedy club shirt, just like me.
Oh.
Yep, Jimmy Callaway.
Hi, Jay. Thanks for having me in my competitor's clothing.
We couldn't sound any more robotic than we did in that intro.
Well,
I don't think.
We probably
We
could.
probably could. I'm not going to say excited to talk about this movie.
Okay, that's fair.
But I'm glad that you brought it to my attention because it was one of those movies that I'd actively avoided watching because it's Justice League.
Right.
I'm not a person who's in the DC mindset. I've watched a couple for the show. I'm not really a DC person. Not really, truthfully, not that much of a comic book movie person, although this past year has sort of turned me around thanks to Black Panther and Infinity War. Yeah. But Justice League.
Yeah,
it's a rough one.
It's not very good.
It's a rough go. Why? What's your major beef with Justice League?
Well, I am very much a comic book guy, comic book superhero movie guy, but I've been a Marvel guy pretty much my whole life. So with the DC movies, I'm already not interested as much as I am in the Marvel movies.
Right.
But also this in particular, because I actually kind of enjoyed Superman versus Batman, even though everyone hated it. I didn't mind Suicide Squad; it was a diversion for a couple hours. But this one, I was just like, "Oh, this is Avengers. They're trying to do Avengers and failing spectacularly."
Oh yeah.
So that I think on its own is enough. Although, like I was telling you before, I actually when I watched it again for the show, I enjoyed it a little bit more. I think. It also helps that I could be on my phone and stuff while it was on, which I couldn't do in the theater.
Right, because you're a courteous individual.
Thank you. I wasn't going to say it, but I'm glad you did.
I got you, buddy.
Thank you. But no, it's a mess. It's a big mishmash. It's a lot of parts that should be working together, but aren't.
Yeah, it's just one of these movies. It feels so cobbled together. It is so obvious that it went through extensive reshoots and rewrites and whatever they're trying to do as a franchise to step their game up against the Marvel juggernaut.
Yes.
Now, this movie, if you hadn't seen it, is 2017 American superhero film based on the DC Comics superhero team. It's the follow-up to Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice, part of the DC Extended Universe, which is just a real. It looks. I mean, I'm looking at the list here. It's a real. It's a real murderer's row of movies that you want to murder the directors of. Man of Steel, Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice, and Justice League, all directed by Zack Snyder.
Right.
You got Suicide Squad in there, and Wonder Woman, which is the only one of these that I have not seen. But we did talk about it on the show. Basically, this franchise was made to be talked about on this podcast.
Oh, absolutely.
And then Aquaman, which just came out.
Or
maybe it's coming out in a week. I don't know. It feels like it's out. It feels like it's out already.
It feels like it's been out for a while.
It feels like it has been out for a long time. Yeah. And there's so much in this movie that it's directed by Zack Snyder again. And it's written by Academy Award winner Chris Terrio. That sounds like shit falling out of my mouth.
No.
And Joss Whedon. And it's got all your favorite people who are phoning it in to play superheroes. You got Ben Affleck, you got Henry Cavill, Gal Gadot, Ezra Miller, Jason Momoa. You got a bunch of people. You got this dude Steppenwolf, who I'd never heard of.
I think you forgot to mention the black guy.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did I forget to mention the black? No, that's Ray Fisher.
Did you say Ray Fisher?
Maybe I did. Maybe I didn't say Ray Fisher. I don't know. But Ray Fisher, you're there. You sure are a robot. You got a handful of women in there, sort of sidelined to doing things.
Right.
You got J.K. Simmons, who just is a real jobber at this point.
Oh yeah,
he does not need to be in this movie.
No, he's doing the Lord's work
at all. He really is. Why do they always get really good actors to play Commissioner Gordon?
I always assume he has like a child or a niece or nephew that's into this sort of thing, so he's trying to connect with them. That's always the guess I make when I see a guy like that in a movie like this. Yeah, but he was already in Spider-Man,
right?
Like, I feel like he can punch out.
Yeah, it's so hard for me to separate J.K. Simmons from J. Jonah Jameson
really
as Spider-Man. He's iconic as Spider-Man. He nails it. But this movie, it's about Batman and Wonder Woman putting together a super team because some intergalactic shit is happening that doesn't make any sense,
Avengers.
so they can remake the Avengers. Yeah. And Superman is dead, and they're fighting Steppenwolf and his army of parademons. Of course, words that shouldn't they just shouldn't work.
Right.
And it doesn't work.
Well, yeah, I don't know why they named the villain after the theater in Chicago either. That seems
I thought
weird.
they named it
It's a
after
weird choice.
the band.
Oh, is there a band called Steppenwolf that does Born to Be Wild? I knew that.
They did, yeah. They did that, and they did Magic Carpet Ride.
Oh, is that Steppenwolf?
Yeah, that's Steppenwolf, baby.
Man, Look, I know a lot about comic books, but not as much classic rock, it would seem.
It's all right. If you didn't know that, you might be more familiar with the remade version, the cover version by Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five.
Oh, of course. That's what I was thinking, yes.
So, I had not seen this movie until you brought it up. And
I'm sorry, Jay.
You should be.
I am.
This is
sincerely.
bad. This is a bad movie. I watched it.
The whole raison d'etre here with the show, isn't it?
I know, but sometimes it's movies that are actually good that people just have a beef with. But this movie is not good.
No, it's not.
This is one of those movies that I was watching the whole time, and I could not help but fall asleep.
Right.
You know,
it's
the
very
feeling?
good for insomnia. That's a good thing. See, we can find positives.
That was the most positive thing about this movie is I didn't need to take a Unisom to fall asleep. I could watch this movie, and then all of a sudden, you know, the big bombastic fight scenes that are supposed to keep you awake.
Right.
This movie suffers from Fantastic Four Rise of the Silver Surfer syndrome.
Oh, boy.
Which I saw in theaters and fell asleep
Wow.
during. Same thing with the Lord of the Rings and the Two Towers.
Oh, for sure.
Fell asleep during all the exciting parts, apparently. Oh, great. Yeah, real exciting. Big explosions. Sounds like white noise machine to me. What do you think is the biggest problem that this movie has besides trying to be the Avengers? Because you bring Joss Whedon in, of course it's going to be Avengers-y.
Yeah.
I'm guessing that was probably the chief goal from the DC heads of whatever.
Right. Well, also, I think they brought Whedon in because Snyder had some family issues.
Yeah, his
that he had to
daughter died,
deal
right?
with. Yeah, she
we can
did.
just bring that up.
By her own hand, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, yeah.
So that's a bummer.
Probably she saw an early cut of this movie.
She's probably just still ashamed of A Knight's Tale. Poor thing. I think because I would say that the movie's biggest problem is related to the Avengers thing, but it goes deeper than that. Like it really feels like DC woke up on the morning of the science fair like, oh no, we forgot to do a thing. And Marvel had been planning the Avengers for years ahead of time. And so it came out great. And then DC was like, I think that's something that DC's always had, because DC and Marvel have always been rivals. But DC always seems to feel like it's above this sort of thing. Like they had already, Warner Brothers had owned the Batman franchise for years and years. And those had always been, for the last 30 years, huge successes, even the shitty ones. So they didn't seem to take it seriously that Marvel was building this franchise off of the Guardians of the Galaxy and characters that, most people weren't even familiar with before the movies.
Right.
But I think there was that hubris that kind of led to this, like, oh, now we have to play catch up and try to cram. Because, Marvel had, 4 or 5 movies before the Avengers to set up that one movie?
Yeah, they had a movie with every member of the Avengers in it on their own.
Right. So
you didn't even know that the Avengers was going to be coming out as a movie.
Yeah. And so they had to they had to quick cram in all this exposition. Oh, let's meet Aquaman and let's meet Cyborg and Flash, and then fight the big fight at the end.
And there are several little big fights peppered throughout the movie also.
Right.
There's so much. This is a problem that it could have been so easily solved if they had more obviously had the vision for where the ultimate direction of the franchise was going to be from the jump.
Right.
Part of the problem, I think, with Justice League and a little bit with Suicide Squad and well, more with Suicide Squad than Batman v Superman, you go in to the Man of Steel, and it's coming off of Christopher Nolan doing what he did with the Batman universe.
Right.
And making his Batman trilogy and changing the way that people approached, at the very least, the DC movies. Because
Right.
Marvel was already doing their own thing at
Right.
that point. You know, you had... At the time Man of Steel came out in 2013, there were, 7 or 8 movies in the Marvel Universe that had come out at that point?
Because the Avengers was 2011, and then probably a couple more since then into 2013, yeah.
So what Man of Steel does is continue in the... I hate seeing gritty and realistic,
Yeah.
but they go in the more serious direction
Right.
that Christopher Nolan had kind of pioneered.
Right.
And then all of a sudden, that's not good enough. And they decide that they need to start throwing in jokes.
Oh, boy.
And boy, oh boy, does it feel dissonant.
It truly does.
It's so bad.
It's not funny at all. And that's the problem, too, is that, like, if they let the Flash be the funny one, I think they probably would have been okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, like you're saying,
because Ezra Miller's great.
Yeah, he's good. I think individually everybody's really pretty good. I even like Ben Affleck as Batman.
I like Ben Affleck as Batman too because they keep him very true to the character.
Yeah, but then he tries to crack wise, and it's like, it's not really working. And same with Superman, and you know what I mean. Like if they just let the Flash carry that would be fine.
Yeah, I don't need to see Aquaman drinking a full bottle of whiskey and then diving in to the ocean like every bro's background.
That was the hardest
phone.
I'd ever laughed in a movie, I think, in the summer of 2017. That was so stupid. But that's also part of it, because I really like Aquaman's probably my favorite DC character. Certainly my favorite member of the Justice League.
Interesting.
Yeah, because he is kind of an underdog. He's the one everybody makes fun of.
An underwater dog, if you will.
Thank you. And also, the comic has been really good the last few years. There's been some really good writers for that. I think Dan Abnett is writing it now, and Jeff Parker before that. So I was really into those guys' work and other things. So, but then the Aquaman they went with was the smarmy, smart-ass, tough guy thing, which is so unlike any Aquaman I've ever seen.
Yeah, let me ask you this: as a comic book fan, I've never. I say this as someone who's read. I could probably count the number of physical comic books I've read on 2 hands, and most of those are Sonic the Hedgehog comic books from the Archie universe. Sure. But what is the general direction of DC in actual comics?
Oh, as far as this sort of thing goes? I mean, to be honest with you, I don't read as many DC books. Like I said, I'm a big Marvel guy.
You're a big Marvel guy, but what have you read that is it more in the, are they trying to ape Marvel in the way that, you know, you've got your classic, like, you know, Spider-Man is very well known as like, it's a funny comic book character, but there's also some serious moments.
Yeah.
That's kind of the direction that Marvel as a movie universe also seems to be going in. The DC stuff that you've read, Aquaman, for instance, what is the vibe that you?
It's
feeling?
It's certainly more regal, like more the current storyline, or somewhat current because I'm a few months behind. Is Aquaman has been ousted as king of Atlantis, so now I can't even remember who's the fucking guy sitting on the throne of Atlantis right now, but it's not him, and so. He's actually teamed up now with the Ocean Master, who's one of his longtime antagonists, who I think is going to be the bad guy in the movie coming out.
Okay.
So it seems like it's the comics are in a much different place than where the movie is, which I think that's one advantage that DC kind of has, is that their characters are so well known outside of the comic book universe that they can just kind of do whatever they want. With the Marvel stuff, they're keeping it more close to the source material,
right?
Because people are going to be a lot more stringent about that sort of thing. And also just because I think the Marvel characters in general are always going to be more relatable to the average Joe. So there's not a whole lot they have to change. I think that's the thing they're trying to do with Aquaman, because Superman and Wonder Woman are like gods.
Right.
And then Batman's like a super rich guy. Like Aquaman is so far the only working class sort of
working class, though.
Right.
But
well, like, that
he's working class in like the way that like a person with a trust fund comes to do stand-up comedy.
Yeah.
And
He's
then all of a
interning,
sudden they're a working man again.
That's pretty much more or less, yeah.
Yeah. But tonally speaking, do you think that the folks who are making these DC movies are trying to do anything to stay true to what's going on in the way DC writes actual comics?
No, I don't think so. I think they're going for the big broad strokes that people are familiar with from past Superman and Batman movies, where you have your basics, Superman, Last Son of Krypton, Lois Lane, all that sort of thing, and people who've never read a comic book can tell you Superman's backstory or Batman's backstory, and to a lesser degree Wonder Woman and Aquaman. So no, I don't think they are considering the comics at all. Even with this movie, which they brought Steppenwolf in, who was like a minor character in Jack Kirby's Fourth World Saga, which is ultimately, like, my impression is that Darkseid is eventually going to be the biggest bad guy they fight, the Thanos of the DC universe. But it seems like all the Mother Box stuff and all the things that all seems to have blown their wad on that story. So I'm not sure where they're going to go with that, how they're going to bring Darkseid in. If they're going to have to go to the planet Apocalypse, or if he's going to come to Earth, or how any of that stuff works. I don't know. But also I'm not as familiar. I know it sounds like it, but
it sounds like you're pretty familiar with what's going on. So there are so many other random things to unpack during this movie too. Like it's definitely trying so hard to be funny and clever in ways that it's just not pulling off. There's so much that just it's supposed to be. You know what it is that it feels like there's supposed to be stakes,
right?
And I just don't care.
No,
I don't give a shit about any of the things that are happening in this movie.
No,
because I feel like it's going to turn out to be okay in the end.
Yes,
I don't have any. One of the things that I actually surprisingly enjoyed about Batman v Superman was the fact that there was a whole subplot based around the governmental fallout of what happened when Superman had to fight off the other Kryptonians who were in exile. And now it's just like, well, we live back in comic book land where none of this shit matters ultimately,
right?
And it's all going to work out. It's whose line is it anyway? Everything's made up and the points don't matter.
Yes.
And so now you have these literal plot devices in the mother boxes, which don't. I'm so mad, Jimmy.
No, I can see that.
I'm so upset.
I know.
Because I want to talk about this movie in a coherent way, but this movie's so incoherent that I have a hard time.
You can't. Yeah, it's just impossible. Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. Like Steppenwolf, there's 3 mother boxes he's trying to get his hands on. He almost immediately gets the first 2.
Right.
Like within the first act, or before, in the first half of the movie at least.
Yeah. And
then so they're like, oh well, now we have to stop him from the third one. And it's like, yeah, okay. And it's like, oh, we got to bring Superman back. And it's like, that's the same, like you're saying, they make it seem like Aquaman's not going to join up, but we already saw the fucking poster outside.
Right.
And that's sort of like trying to raise stakes that way. Oh, Cyborg's not going to be part of the thing, like he's got anything else to do. So,
he's got to hate his dad.
That's true. That does take a lot of time.
It does. It's a lot of effort.
But yeah, so I think that's the sort of thing where we're all like, look, we all know where this is going.
Right.
Just,
Well, the other thing is it's so one of my biggest problems, sort of in general, with comic book movies is is comic book logic, and I think that there's ways around it, and Marvel does it way better than DC in the current iteration of the DC universe does.
Yes.
This movie features so much exposition of Steppenwolf showing up, and they have this big climactic battle with the Atlanteans and the Amazons. Why are you calling them Amazonians? Grammatically.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more.
I'm bumping against it, guys. I'm bumping against it. Academy Award winner Chris Terrio.
What did he win an Academy Award for?
Argo.
Oh, okay.
With Ben Affleck.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
Oh, they come together again.
Yeah, they come together again. Ben Affleck and his little sniveling boy writing more quippy movies for him. But they go and they have this fight, and all the exposition is so wonderfully delivered by Wonder Woman, and then she goes, well, now he's figured out what his mistake was before, which is now he just needs to go directly for the boxes. Why did it take him this long to figure it out?
And why they are also like, oh, now that Superman's dead, that it's safer for him to attack. Right. But it was like Superman wasn't on Earth until in this continuity, 30 years previous.
Yeah.
So why not attack in the early 20th century when mankind didn't even have like tanks yet?
It's also they're like, they put them in these strongholds, and they look so poorly guarded.
Yeah,
they're not. You're literally putting this shit on a pedestal,
right,
ready to be grabbed.
So it's easier to just pick up.
Right.
The Atlanteans have one guy out front, like it's the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier or something. They're just they have one guy. Like, they should probably have more than one guy if
probably
on his way.
It's so. This is especially if
right,
if you feel the disturbance in the Force,
right,
which at this point maybe the Star Wars universe does blend into the DC universe, and so I'm not gonna say it's not canon, but if you can feel that and you see that your mother box is acting up, it's on the fritz. Yeah, you should probably go, oh, hey, maybe that guy is coming back.
Maybe let's throw it in a safe or something.
Yeah.
Or I don't know.
Probably have some sort of safe underwater, right?
Yeah.
Make a shark eat it.
That's a very good, yeah.
Sharks love eating stuff that they're not supposed to eat.
And it won't digest all the way. It'll be fine.
Yeah. Man, there's so much in this movie that it's very clear that they tried to do what they could to sort of right the wrongs and make this movie palatable and fun to watch. But it just doesn't pay off.
And I think too, like the not to harp on this, but if they had because the individual characters are fun, I think. Like Wonder Woman's great, and her action sequences are great, and the same with the Flash. Like if they had given us more to build up, so that when we start this movie, we go, okay, teams together, good, check. Now let's attack. Let's do this big thing. But it's like so many individual pieces that it's less than the sum of its parts, basically.
Yeah, it really is.
So that's frustrating because you can see good movies, plural, inside this one not very good movie.
Right. And part of that is, I think, literally because it originally was supposed to be two movies.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It was originally written with a part 1 and a part 2, and then all of a sudden they decided to combine them and cram them up together. And this movie has a long history of developmental problems. It was supposed to be around. I just made it sound like this movie was in special needs classes, eating blocks.
That probably would have been a better idea.
Probably. What if you get Justice? Have they ever done superhero movies with special needs kids?
There was Blank Man starring Damon Wayans.
What is that?
Which I think was based on his handyman character that he used to do on In Living Color.
Oh, okay.
Which it was a handicapped superhero.
I've never seen this.
Yeah. It's pretty. I don't think it's aged very well from the early 90s, but yeah, that was.
Get out of here. Something from the 90s didn't turn out to be
Imagine that.
Fun and cool to watch.
But I think that is the only. Yeah, there are I think Shazam will be a little bit because the kid's not handicapped, but he is a big,
He's a big ding dong. Yeah. So they have, over the course, they said that they're going to make a Justice League movie. It was way back as 2007, and it went through a bunch of iterations. and it went through a bunch of directors. Jason Reitman was supposed to direct Justice League. George Miller was supposed to direct Justice League.
Oh, that would have been...
Yeah.
I would have watched that.
Dude, George Miller's version of Justice League?
Forget about it. It's a big road movie at that point.
Please. I am something chrome. Whatever. You got so many... Armie Hammer was originally Batman. Jessica Biel was originally Wonder Woman. Mary Elizabeth Winstead was supposed to be in the movie. They had so many people who were supposed to be in this movie. They were shooting it in Australia for a little bit, and then they just kept having delays. And then Zack Snyder was like, "I figured it out. I know how to do the Superman thing." And here's Zack Snyder is someone who has shown such promise and just continues, unfortunately, to disappoint me over the years.
Yeah.
I really want to like Zack Snyder as a director because he can get some of the job done.
I think his Dawn of the Dead is very unsung. I think it's a really good movie.
Yeah.
It's not a great remake necessarily, and I know like some people have a problem with fast zombies, but I still think it's like a really good movie. It's a zombie movie about the people in the shopping mall. It's not about zombies.
I'm a big fan of his version of Watchmen, which I know
I refuse.
I know it's an unpopular opinion, but I like what he did with it.
That's fair.
I think he did.
I've not watched it out of protest.
He took a movie that was so hard to make another movie that was in development hell for a really long time, and he managed to make it, and it wasn't terrible. It's, if you're a big fan of not watching Zack Snyder movies, then I would suggest you avoid it. But I think he's not. I don't think he's totally incompetent as a director.
No, I don't.
I just think that he has his. It's so obvious when you're watching a Zack Snyder movie, or when you're watching a movie that was inspired, where the director of that movie was probably jacking off to slow motion scenes that Zack Snyder had put in his other movies.
300 is very erotic.
Exactly, it is. It just, that's the thing. It's so. The more glistening male chests moving around in slow motion, muscles bouncing that Zack Snyder can throw into a movie, the better.
I mean, imagine if they had been nude as they were in the actual source material.
Right.
Oh, boy.
I mean, you know that the minute that they figured out Aquaman could rip his shirt off in this movie, Zack Snyder's like, give me some of that tattooed Jason Momoa body.
P.S. Jason Momoa, a top physical specimen. I remember thinking that the first time I watched it, Jesus, I'm very aroused right now.
Cut me
I'm
off
very much the heterosexual type. Is that what they call it?
Cut me off a slice of that sweet Hawaiian ham.
Ooh, boy.
Oh, boy. But then all sorts of it's too many cooks in the kitchen.
That's what it boils down to.
That's what it boils down to. And everybody is making this movie with the best intentions. I don't think anyone is trying to make No. I don't know how many people, if ever, go into a movie expecting it to be a bad movie.
Right.
And you're never making something, and there's probably people on set who are probably like, oh, this is maybe a little bit dog shit.
Right. Well, I think that's the thing about superhero movies, as I think I mark it from the first X-Men movie. And it's like, so superhero movies of the 21st century, it was like with the first X-Men movie, they were like, hey, what if we took this seriously? What if we did this comic book movie and actually tried to recreate the sort of feelings you get from reading these comics? Whereas before that, they were always just kind of cynically banged out, you know what I mean? And to varying degrees of success, like the Superman movies, the Christopher Reeve. But I mean, even the third and fourth of those are unwatchable.
Yeah.
And so it was like they were just like, yeah, we'll just slap a Superman logo on this and these nerds will all go. And they were not entirely wrong, but that's why so many of them were so bad. And there is still even that learning curve into the 2000s with Daredevil and those Ghost Rider movies, because they were still trying, I think, too hard to do something that wasn't a comic book movie. It's like, just do a comic book movie. And then again, to come back to the Avengers thing, that's where Marvel treated those movies as though they were a comic book series. It was a serialized but self-contained. And that's what DC has missed out on here. So it's like cramming. It's like just taking a bunch of comics and then shuffling them together like a deck of cards, so there's a bunch of them on top of each other.
And then just dealing it out.
Garbage.
Yeah.
And that was another thing that when I was watching this, because in the comics, the death of Superman was pretty good, and then bringing him back was this big mishmash of a story called The Reign of the Supermen. But if they had tried that in the movies, if they had done that instead of what they did with Justice League, I think that would have been way more fun to watch. And it would have been one less scene to just cram in. And then, Superman's evil because he's back from the dead. Like, we don't know that he's going to show up at the end and
Right,
fight
of
Steppenwolf.
course. They have the logo for Superman in the poster for the movie.
Right.
You think he's not going to show back up?
Of course he's going to show back up.
Of course he's going to show back up. Why do you have Lois Lane in the movie if she's going to show back up? And Martha.
Yeah.
Martha. But only one Martha this time.
Oh, thank God for that.
Thank
Good Lord.
God.
That is absolutely the worst part of that.
Too many Marthas. I'm looking at some of the reviews of this movie now also, and it got mixed reviews.
Yeah.
It has
Not a surprise.
a 40% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Okay.
And some of the reviews of this movie that are good reviews make me question if these reviewers got paid off. Because,
For example?
well, Owen Gleiberman of Variety said, the movie is never messy or bombastic.
Never.
It's never.
Never, Owen?
Never.
Oh, boy. If he's not in Warner Brothers' pocket, I don't know who is.
Hey, how about when the literal bomb goes off, Owen? Is that bombastic?
Is that not bombastic?
What about also just we completely glossed over the most dapper terrorists of all time.
Oh, indeed.
Completely ready to I don't understand the mechanics of how any of that was supposed to work. They showed up in vans that they were all heavily armed.
Right.
And they had a bomb that they're like, we're going to blow up 4 city blocks. And then all of a sudden, just because I guess it's in the air, it does no damage to anything at all.
She threw it very high.
She's very strong.
It's a good thing there wasn't any planes going overhead.
A very strong gal.
But I do you're absolutely right. But I did like the actual action sequence of Wonder Woman, fighting these terrorists.
See, I did too. I like that.
But yeah, it is it feels like a nice sandwich served to you on a dirty paper plate. Like, ugh, you got to put it in the middle of all this,
right?
Like, why not just make this its own thing?
And also, the roast beef is cracking jokes at you the whole time. It's just just be roast beef.
Just be roast beef.
Just be a roast beef sandwich.
Yeah, that's all we're asking for. Don't try to be something you're not.
Right.
So I think that's the other thing too that you can see with this movie is DC kept trying to do its own thing, like you were saying, like the more gritty, realistic stuff, which I think was obviously well served with the Christopher Nolan Batmans. And even though I didn't see Man of Steel, like the fact that they showed the aftermath of him fighting General Zod and all that, and all these people died, and then that went over into Superman, or is it Batman v Superman? Is that
Batman v Superman? Yeah. It was my favorite Supreme Court case we studied in school.
They show all that, and so it's like, oh, okay, well, it's not very good, but at least they're kind of sticking to one thing. And then with this, they're like, no, it'll be fun. We'll have some wisecracks in there, and everybody's a comedian all of a sudden.
Right.
And it's like, oh, boy.
God.
Let Barry take the lead on that, and then the rest of them,
Yeah. I'm going to leave the funny. I want to leave the funny superhero movie making to Marvel, because they have the stable of better comedy directors than DC does. It's just a flat out. There's no comparison.
None.
I will watch any movie that Taika Waititi makes.
Oh, absolutely.
I'll watch any movie that James Gunn makes, which actually, I mean, it's good in the long run that he got fired from the Marvel universe, because now DC's picking him up for Suicide Squad.
Right?
Yeah.
Oh, that makes perfect sense.
Suicide Squad 2 is going to be apparently written and potentially directed by James Gunn. Which is probably the best thing that could ever happen to the DC universe.
1,000,000%. If they got Edgar Wright in on some of this action too, who Marvel also fired, that would not be a bad idea.
No, it wouldn't be.
Yeah.
But we'll see. We'll see, man. I just...
Hope springs eternal.
I mean, I'm looking at the rest of this lineup of the DC universe that's coming out. Next year we got Shazam, which looks fine.
That actually does look
looks
okay.
good.
Yeah.
What's the guy's name? Not Zach Braff.
No, but is Chuck?
Chuck, yeah.
Yeah, I don't remember
Chuck Braff.
Chuck Braff.
He's just one of those white guys with the straight up hair.
Yeah, he's Zach. It doesn't matter which Zach.
What other mid 2000s NBC comedy people are going to have a big resurgence in 2019? Because we already had the year of our boy John Krasinski, who made a movie that he tricked people into believing was good with The Quiet Place. But you got Birds of Prey, Cyborgs coming out, Wonder Woman 1984.
That I'm looking forward to.
And I got and that one, you've got Kristen Wiig in there, which is a fun choice.
Oh, great.
Patty Jenkins is directing it again, which is also a good choice.
Yes.
I just, I think I wonder at what point the DC universe decides to just cut their losses.
Well, I think right now they're probably, because I think people are getting a little tired of the Marvel ones. I think I get that feeling, especially once Avengers 4 comes out.
Right. Well,
and
now
that's
Marvel's
like a big period.
They've gone full circle, and now they're making the gritty ones.
Yeah.
I mean,
but they're also like they canceled the Netflix one, like Luke Cage.
Yep.
Or did Netflix cancel those? I'm
sure it was probably some sort of mutual agreement. It's
Right.
all gone now.
Right. So I think DC might, at the very least, stick in for the next couple of years just to see if people are exhausted with superhero movies, then that would definitely be the best time
Yeah.
to bail. But if they can somehow deliver to audiences a superhero movie that's not like the Marvel, that'll reignite people's interest in superhero movies, then they're sitting pretty. But they're not going to do it with a movie like Justice League. That's
Absolutely
for sure.
not. And they're probably not going to do it with a movie like Aquaman, but I guess we'll see.
I'm looking forward to that. Like I said, he was my favorite. He is my favorite Justice League member. And also watching this one again, Momoa is good. It's a really stupid character, but he's doing a good job with it, if
Right.
that makes sense.
Oh, that makes total sense.
They gave him a not very good character, and he's putting all into it. And I think it's paying off. We'll
Right.
see. But also, there's Willem Dafoe, I think, is in this Aquaman, so I'm looking forward to that.
Oh, I love a good Willem Dafoe role.
And and he plays his lead enforcer, which is pretty cool. And then it was Amber Heard is playing Mira.
Yep, she's back.
She's good. I'm looking. I don't know. It'll be. When I first saw Justice League, I was as amused by how stupid Aquaman was as I was into it. I don't know that I've never been more dubious about a dumb character like that, where exactly 50% of me was like, this is ridiculous. And the other 50% was like, no, this is great.
Oh my God, Dolph Lundgren is in Aquaman.
I mean, come on, dude. Who is he playing?
He's playing the king of the Atlantean tribe of Zebel and Mira's father, who allies with Orm, the Ocean Master.
Orm the Ocean Master, yeah. Who's playing on Ocean Master?
Patrick Wilson.
Where do I know that name?
He was in Watchmen.
Who was he in Watchmen?
Night Owl.
Oh, okay.
He's been in a bunch of stuff.
Yeah, I know
He's
the name.
He's another one of those white guys with black hair who just shows up in everything.
His name's not Zach?
No.
That's weird. He should talk to his agent.
Zach Trick Wilson. We shoehorned it in.
Sure.
Just like they shoehorned everything into Justice League.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, I can't say that I'm mad at you for making me watch this movie.
Well,
I
that's
did.
good. I would hate for this movie to come between our friendship.
Nah, it could never come between our friendship. I feel like I got something out of it, which is weird because I haven't felt like I've gotten anything out of the other DC Universe movies that I've watched except just blind rage.
Sure.
At filmmaking.
Sure.
But now it's just I get what you guys are trying to do. I can't be mad at you.
No.
I can be mad at the methods.
Right.
And again, just, a big fuck you to the Hollywood machine. So hire me. Jimmy.
We'll straighten out your goddamn superhero movies, by God.
Jimmy, where can the listeners find you on the old internets?
Oh, thank you for asking, Jay. I'm on Twitter and Instagram at Jimmy the Worm. And I also have a podcast.
I was going to ask, you did have a podcast.
Yeah, it's called The Worm Turns with Jimmy Callaway, available on iTunes and everywhere else.
Sweet.
It's a music podcast.
Ooh.
So yeah, we don't talk about comic books as much as I might want to.
Hey, that's fine. It is what it is.
Right.
You can find me on the internet at Diet J on Twitter and Instagram.
One of my favorite handles. That's such a
thank
good
you.
handle.
I've had that one for a long ass time. JLightComedy.com for show dates. I have some stuff coming up in Los Angeles. I've got a brand new show at the Pack Theater with my friend Dean Peters on episode 2 of this podcast. Look at that, way back. Called, actually, I don't think we've settled on a name yet as of recording time, so I'm going to hold off. But that's going to be Saturday the 5th at the Pack Theater at 10:30. Come to that, and then I'll be in San Diego on Tuesday the 8th and on Wednesday the 30th. So keep your eyes peeled for that. Oh, and on Friday the 18th, I'm going to be in San Diego a lot this month in January. So keep your eyes peeled on the calendar, jlightcomedy.com. And if you like the show, please leave a rating, leave a review, subscribe. It helps me. And do the same thing for Jimmy's
Yes,
podcast,
please.
right, don't you? The Worm Turns. This has been Blockbusting. Go see something good for a change.